argue back, actually guys, who says they're living animals and not little baby eggs? And I'll say, actually guys, there is a possibility that there's a boat that's been found on this mountain, but the Turkish government won't let us get there. And they'll be like, yeah, whatever. And I'll be like, actually guys, there's evidence of a global flood, and there's stuff that you can see in soil erosion. And we'd have this argument to and fro, backwards and forward. And the point is not who won the argument, the point is simply this, there's two of them. The first one is that today, what I believe about Noah's Ark is totally different to what I believed as a high school student going up. The reality is, where my mind was at and with the research I'd done, I had no idea what I was talking about. My friends didn't either. But the second thing that I really want you guys to catch on to is this. As we would argue about whether Jesus was real, or whether the Bible was true, whether Noah's Ark could actually have happened, I didn't win any friends to Christ. And they didn't win me away from Christ. All that really happened was that they became sure that we're over here and Nick's a crazy kid, and that's where we stand. And I was like, I'm over here and these guys don't believe me and the truth is obvious. And there was two distinct sides as we would argue and debate about whether or not Noah's Ark could have happened or whether or not the world was really created in 7 days. And so you can go through these little things you might choose to argue about when sharing faith. Hey, I meet on a Tuesday night with a small group of people, a group of young adults between 20 and about 28, I think. And late last year, the group got together and we watched this film called Saved. It's got actors in it. It's supposed to be a comedy, and some people find it highly offensive, others find it kind of funny. And I want to show you guys a little scene. There's a girl who's apparently pregnant, and she's been struggling with her identity in her faith, and she's got some friends, and they're supposed to be Christian. They're supposed to be the perfect Christians. And they're going to come and they're going to try to help their friend. And I want you guys to check out the scene and let's just see what happens. Turn your eyes to the screens. Thanks.
Meantime, I was trying to find a new religion, or a new god, or whatever. But to tell you the truth, they're all kind of freaking me out. I mean, sure, they can't all be right, but they can't all be wrong, right?
No, the whole crystal thing is so felt up.
Don't you have a church to desecrate or something?
Roland and I both saw you sneaking out the clinic. Kudos on the bottom shades, by the way.
I was distributing pamphlets. I was trying to prevent girls like you from making a mistake. Thank you.
After we win the costume contest, we'll distribute like religious tracts to the kids instead of candy.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, ladies. Sorry. You got a second?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm concerned about Mary. Something's going on.
Yeah, me too.
Well, she's part of your posse, and I think that you can help her. I'm going to need you to be a warrior out there on the front lines for Jesus.
You mean like shooter?
No, I was thinking of something a little less gangster. I need someone who's spiritually armed to help guide her back to her faith. To love and care that only Jesus can supply. You down with that?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
She's pretty vulnerable right now, so I'm going to need you to be extra gentle.
Backsliding into the flames of hell. You've become a magnet for sin. We've all witnessed it.
Sure. Veronica acting all pure. What about last spring break at the Promise Makers rally, huh?
Oh my God, you are making accusations as we're trying to save your soul. Mary, turn away from Satan. Jesus, he loves you.
You don't know first thing about love.
I am filled with Christ's love. You are just jealous of my success in the Lord.
This is not looking. You idiot.
Alrighty. I don't know about you guys, but I love that scene where she turns around and she picks up the Bible and she goes, "This is not a weapon, you idiot." And just before she throws it, "I am full of love." Just throws the Bible there. Yeah, full of love, sure you are. Hey, I'm hoping and I'm thinking that no one out there has ever gone up to a person and said, here's the Bible, bang, and you totally bashed them with it. But the reality is, I know I've done it, I'm thinking some of you have done it at some stage. You've tried to share your faith and you've done it in a manner where it's really just been like, bash, this is what God says, and you're a bad person. And we've failed to really share what we're wanting to. We're failing to say what we're wanting to really say. Hey, I've been speaking to you a lot about a guy named Paul on his missionary journeys. And we're going to skip a whole chunk of stuff and we're going to head to Acts chapter 17 today. Paul's been doing all this mission work through Asia and he's been heading down. He's found himself in Greece. And he's arrived in Greece, in Athens, and he has just been totally astounded because everywhere he goes, there's people worshipping all these different kinds of gods. And wherever he's going, he's seeing statues and people are coming to the statues and they're bowing down and they're worshipping at these statues. He's like, man, what's going on here? I've got to tell these people about Jesus. So he starts talking about Jesus and a whole bunch of religious leaders hear what he's saying. And so they say, right, we need to get this guy together. And they get some scholars together and they say, right, Paul, explain to us what's actually going on. And I'm just going to quickly read to you what happens. It says, Paul then stood in the meeting place of the Areopagus and said, Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. Now what you worship as something unknown, I am going to proclaim to you. What you worship as something unknown, I am going to proclaim to you. I don't know if you guys have quite caught on to it. Do you notice what he's doing? Paul doesn't walk up to these Athenians and goes, right, I'm going to prove that Jesus existed, and here's 7 bullet points. He doesn't go, right, I'm going to prove that your other gods are crazy and don't exist, and here's 10 bullet points. He says, right, you have a statue to an unknown God. Let me tell you about this unknown God. Let me tell you about Jesus. And so he starts there and he shares this message of truth. He doesn't say, you're wrong, I'm right. He says, hey, this is the truth. I invite you to come on board and to be part of the truth here. So what's Paul really doing? He's starting where the people are at. He's not saying, this is my agenda, get with the play, girlfriend, or get out of here. He's saying, this is where you're at. This is the truth. And let's just talk about this, and yeah, we'll see what happens after that. Hey, I got here about 5 and a bit years ago. When I first arrived in Perth, I went to the University of Western Australia, so UWA. It's got an amazing campus. There's buildings, they're really, really old. It's got fancy architecture. All the lawns are fully manicured, and there's trees, which must be like 100 years old or something like that. And it'd just be an awesome place to study. And one of my favourite times, still is one of my favourite times, is lunchtime. And we'd go out at lunchtime, and I'd hang out with my mates on a place that they called Oak Lawn. You'll be out on Oak Lawn, and you can get food, you can have a few beers, and you can look out over the Swan River, and it's just beautiful. It's really picturesque. And one day I was out on the Oak Lawn and I was talking to one of my uni friends. He's a staunch atheist.